the historic monuments and memorials, we're just deleting the authority at the back end of the bill. 21. No, I'm on the wrong one. Everything else in the bill stays the same. I had this. Out of order. Well, maybe that was the bill that he had in mind. But it takes out the basically the sentences of the local municipality from moving a monument, any type of structure, as was done here in the latter years. It's taken away from what the intent was to give honor and history remembrance to those that fought in the wars of past to keep this country free. Is there any questions? Senator Barnett.
Yes, question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No. So this one, is this bill in regards to other monuments and things like that that have been moved by other states? Is this why this bill is here?
Pretty much, as far as all of our veterans of all past wars. The amendment to this bill might believe to be hurtful, but in that time, in that place in history, did our forefathers deem it necessary to erect these memorials and monuments, statues as to the testament and sacrifice of those who persevered for freedom here and around the world?
My question is, some of these wars I have no problem with because we fought in them collectively. We fought in them as a country. But some of those we didn't. We fought as a means to keep this country separated, segregated, divided, and all of those. So those monuments and things that we erect in the fight for unity, where we all participated, I have no problem with that. But I don't think that we should be trying to pass legislation to keep those things. If a city or somebody decides that they want to move it because it was under a divisive time in this country, where it promoted that one should be inferior to the other, things like that, then I don't agree with that. But when we talk about the Korean War, we talk about there's a war that we all participate in. When we talk about the Persian Gulf War, I participated in that. When we talk about Vietnam, there was other individuals that participated in. That was a country war that we fought as a United States of America. All of those, I think, should be protected. Everything that we fought as a United States of America should be protected. But the other ones, I think, I don't think that we should be trying to keep in place anything where we are saying that we agree with how we were a divisive or a divided country at one time, and we're one-sided, wanted to have something more than that. That's my opinion on this. And so if we're going to keep those in there, then my vote has to be. As a veteran, I would appreciate it if we will only focus on those things where we, and I mean the whole United States, participated in efforts to keep this country safe together, and also give other countries that same freedom, but not to fight or not to try and keep those things in place where we had a divided past in this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. I agree, but also the thing of erasing history and not learning from your mistakes, if you do not have that there for a reminder, then I feel history will repeat itself. And we have biblically and over time, as the people forget, these same issues do come back and bite us.
I think that we have had enough time to remember those things that kept us divided. I think it was a great thing in the state of Mississippi when we finally decided that we would live under a united flag in the state of Mississippi. And I think my speech from the well that day is that I found it hurtful that I could go and fight in a foreign country under a United States of America flag, but to come to my home state and live under a divided state of Mississippi flag. And I think that if you haven't walked a mile in a veteran's shoes, if you haven't put on that uniform voluntarily, and some of us involuntarily, but we put it on and we put it on proudly to defend a free country where we all thought that everybody deserved the same equal right. Those monuments, those men and women that fought in those campaigns, I think their memory should live on forever. But regardless if it was someone like me or anyone else that fought to make sure that we keep this country divided based on our ideologies and other things, I don't think that should be something that should be a constant reminder. We have had long enough to see these things. We have seen them long enough. We have been reminded of it long enough. So as a veteran, I'm just asking that we respect those people that did this for a one country, not a two country.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions?
And at the proper time, I would like to offer an amendment.
This is the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, my amendment would to be that anything that was Civil War related, I think I make amendment to strike it from this piece of legislation. But all other wars where we fought, where everyone had the opportunity to fight equally or defend this country equally, should all be included in this. Bob, I hope I'm making that clear enough for you.
I got you. All right. Any questions about the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
All those opposed? With amendment code carries. Now back on the bill. Committee sub as amendment.
Question.
Mr. Delano, Senator Delano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I don't have the strike through language. What's actually removed on lines 27?
It basically,
It's the authority, Mr. Chairman, it's the authority of the local governing authorities to move a monument to a more appropriate place if they, this statute prohibits historical monuments from being destroyed, but they have the authority to move them. And this deletes the authority to move them. The intent of the statute originally was to allow them to move it if you're going to build a road through the area where the monument was, and
that's still in effect.
This is removing that authority.
This removes that.
This removes it.
So if a monument or if there's a proposed parking garage built to accommodate a parking need in an area and there is a monument that is currently in the targeted location for a parking garage, we're telling the local municipality they cannot move it?
That's the idea.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions?
I have a motion. Motion to table, subject to call the chair.
I have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Be laid on the side table. Okay, subject call the chair. Next bill. disabled veterans motor vehicle license tag, revised provisions. This was a bill that we had passed last year. And what has come about, the disability increments that a veteran is weighed by the VA is in increments of 10. And we had did 75. So they come back and asked us to bring forth a clearer percentage. So we have just changed it to 70% and it met the clerical wording to make that apply. If it would, Mr. Chairman, Senator Barnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A while back, you and I had talked about this as well, and I'm in favor of the 70%, but did we ever get the language correct where those individuals who are at least 70% can also not have to pay for or buy a fishing or hunting license like those people who are 100% disabled are?
Well, that ain't addressed in this bill, but the physical note that we tried to get to attain that, Wildlife and Fisheries said it would be too big of a detriment.
Okay. And also on this, in this particular language too, you know, if you're 100% disabled, then that exempts you from property tax up to 180 acres, I think, except for commercial property. This does not do anything but only addresses the license plate part.
License plate.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that that was.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Senator McMahon.
So it recently came to my attention that sometimes if someone has certain, I'm asking for counsel on this, if a state National Guards man or woman were to serve, or if they served in the reserves of the National Guard, they are not considered as a veteran of the United States military service. Is that accurate?
I need to research that. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure it's accurate.
McDaniel, would you enlighten us a little bit on that?
There's a federal statute that outlines exactly what is considered a veteran that's recognized on federal level benefits and for that official federally recognized status. However, a few years ago, there was what can basically be considered what's called an honorary veteran status. This does not cover that particular status. So to answer your question in broader terms, if you serve in the National Guard or the reserve, unless you're on active service for a period of time, a certain period of time, you're not considered a federally recognized veteran.
That is correct. That's what I've been told. So I do have an amendment. Since this is a state resident issue, on line 11, I would like to amend it to on 10 and 11, where it says a veteran of service in the armed forces of the United States. On line 11, a comma, or the state National Guard, comma, or National Guard Reserve. That's my amendment. So the amendment is we have residents of this state that have served in the National Guard and as reservists in the National Guard, but they are not recognized as United States soldiers. But yet they were still guardsmen in this state and served active duty for the state. They responded when there's natural disasters, and I'd like to extend them the same courtesy on these car tags, and that's my motion.
You read that. How it's going.
On line 11, we're going to add after, or United States, or the Mississippi National Guard, or the Mississippi National Guard Reserve.
Correct.
Okay, if we do this, I don't know if we'll be able to get enough time to get a physical note. And it might be best that we pass what we got here and try to come back next year to correct the rest of it. That would kind of, it would basically kill the bill. That's true too.
While you wait
And
on.
we,
while you
push
wait
it on.
the physical note, you can go back to the-
yes,
First off, I
Colonel.
greatly appreciate this topic. I will say that if someone has under this statute to recognize physical disability, they would be recognized for purposes of this statute as disabled. So in other words, if you're in service, you get a disability and you get a disability rating, you're rated by the federal VA. So they actually would be, we actually have several members of the guard that do fall within that category. So they would be covered within the statute.
so as it is now, the amendment would not be
I greatly
Needed.
appreciate
the intent.
but it would not, for lack of a better term, it would not be necessary to state that, because if they're a federally recognized disabled veteran, they're gonna be that even if in the guards. There's only one process to do it.
Okay. Senator, would you like to?
I have a motion before the committee.
Mr.
Senator
Chairman,
Delano.
if I understand this, if I understand the colonel properly, then there wouldn't be a fiscal note required because it's already covered. And all that we're doing is through the amendment is we're providing the language in there to
Language.
just to make sure that everyone knows that there's no ambiguity to the public that these officers or these people are also included. These veterans are also included.
Right, my
in this.
intent is saying that if we do add this amendment, it's not gonna quote kill the bill in terms of creating type of additional
So it doesn't change
requirement.
anything. It clarifies.
I apologize for that,
Yeah.
that clarification, but if you put members of, to include National Guard and Reserve, then that's not gonna.
It's not gonna affect the
that's not gonna impact
Financial side of the
the
bill.
financial side of the bill at all.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask counsel if he would agree that a fiscal note would not be would not be required. If it's already provided as a benefit, this is just further clarification. and
All
it's
I can say is
probably-
you don't have to have a fiscal note to proceed with the bill. That's all that I can tell you about that.
Okay.
Whether it would cost more money or not, I can't give an opinion. on.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you for your amendment.
I would like to speak on the amendment, just for clarification. There are some cases in Mississippi where men and women have served in the National Guard. They have performed their duty when they were called out for natural disasters. And they have not been, and they're not recognized as soldiers. And there have been cases, regardless to what the colonel's saying here, and I respect the colonel and his service. There are cases where National Guardsmen and women have not received the benefits that I believe they should have been due. And so I'm not going to withdraw my amendment. I am going to ask for a vote on the amendment. And this is just clarifying language.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
All those opposed? The amendment carries. Now we need to adopt.
Committee sub.
Is
Motion.
that your motion to adopt the committee sub?
Yeah. Toss sufficient due pass committee sub.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The bill carries. All right. Next is Senate Bill 2234, commercial driver's license authorizing the issuance of military trained personnel under Military Family Freedom Act. This bill came to us, and upon research, the Department of Public Safety has a lot of this already in place. As you see on line 154, it's giving just the general provisions of section 63.1.208 of the code as far as complying for a commercial or CDL learner's permit. But also in, research, we did find that there was some discrepancy in our DD 214, some of the actual resume of a, retiring or transferred, officer or military man kind of gets, not verified somewhat. So on line 224, 223, the individual who holds a valid Mississippi driver's license or who holds a United States military driving credentials that satisfy the requirements of 49 CF Code, Federal Regulation, Part 383. And then if that person passes the written test and all, but that just makes sure that he has proper documentation that he truly had been in operation of a vehicle and trained in that manner. Hear any question?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this is a good bill and I'd like it to help out a lot of people moving into our state. I know that there are some guard units in our state that are actively recruiting other missions and so forth. And one thing they look at is the intermobility of licenses and so forth. And if it's, would you consider a friendly amendment if I changed it from the taking effect on July 1st to taking effect upon passage?
No, I would entertain that motion.
I'd like to make that amendment.
All those in favor of the amendment, or is there any questions about the amendment? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Right. Hear a motion to adopt the committee sub in lieu of the original bill. All those in favor? Any opposed? That bill will be recorded. Next up, Senate Bill 2390. This is the Executive Director of the State Veterans Affairs Board. We're going to change the appointment procedure as far as the governor shall appoint the executive director of the board with the advising consent of the Senate. Also, he will serve at the will and pleasure of the governor. The executive director shall also serve as the executive secretary to the State Veterans Affairs Board. The State Veteran Affairs Board shall appoint the deputy director and individuals that manage the agency. Are there any questions?
All sufficient do pass.
All those in favor? We do the advising consent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That bill will be recorded. Last bill, Senate Bill 2608. I'm going to ask my co-chair, my vice chair, Senator Delano, to explain that bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, there are several definitions throughout our state code that make reference to the armed services. And this bill is language that includes the United States Space Force in those definitions. And that's an explanation of the bill. And I'll be glad to yield for questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any
If
questions?
there are no other questions, I'd like to make a motion of top sufficient do pass.
There's a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion.
Motion carries. That bill will be recorded.
Motion.
Motion from the floor.
Rise and report.
Rise and report.
Wow. That very first bill.
Huh?
The one that McMahon held. No report. That's what I needed to know. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir.